What is good, guys, and welcome back to the channel at 2 days out. I've called in some reinforcements for today. Mr Oisin Sloane is here, OS Media, and we're going to capture some really good content. So the aim of today's video is to show you what I'm doing at 2 days out from my debut natural bodybuilding show. So we're competing in the natural bodybuilding show at Muscle Contest in the RDS in Dublin on Friday. It's Wednesday now and we're halfway through the day. So it is currently 1:20 in the day and we're about to head off to the gym for our final session, which is going to be an upper body pump session. So far this week I've hit push and pull. And today's just going to be essentially the last session. I'll get into the goal of the session when we get to the gym. But other than that, like the day so far went like this. So I woke up at, unfortunately, like 3:30, if not even earlier. And that's just prep, okay? I can't do anything about it. I really wish I didn't. But I was just awake and did my best to get back to sleep. It wasn't happening. So got up, had my morning supplements, coffee, got on the walking pad, which is just down here. I can bring this up nice and high, and cracked into a little bit of work. So boxed off some work at 4:30 in the morning. Never going to be a bad thing, and helps. Look, the benefit of it is that it's going to help me get on the front foot from the start of the day. Got to the gym for 6 a.m. and all I had to do this morning was just my AM shots for Alan. Alan got back to me very soon after with the plan for the day. And if you've watched the last vlog, essentially what we were looking at there was my baseline nutrition with an extra bump of carbohydrates around the workout. So my baseline nutrition, obviously I was down to 1,850 calories or so. My pre-training meal was with oats in it at 40 grams, quite meaty. But it's up to 80 grams yesterday and today. And my post-training, which was just 40 grams away, also now has in it 50 grams of oats and 100 grams of berries. Now I have asked Alan if I can just substitute in cream of rice instead of the oats, because just from a digestive standpoint, I do find it to be better. And as we get closer to stage, I'm just trying to be that little bit more picky with my carb sources. So that was all good. And yeah, that's essentially the plan. 10K steps today. No cardio still, so obviously low output, especially relative to where we were. I don't know myself. Yesterday I did feel unbelievable. I didn't even feel like I prepped. Today is following the same sheet, and yeah, it's looking like we're coming in pretty damn fresh now, and I look forward to going through this session, boxing off yet another day, and being 1 day out tomorrow, which is a very exciting thing for me right now. Anyways, I'm just shit talking. I'm just going to keep adding to stuff. The next thing you're going to see from me is going to be from the gym, where I take you through the upper body session and just reflect on the journey so far. I think today's going to be a good day to do that. And just some things that I've been thinking about over the last few weeks, some learning curves as it pertains to me along my first ever competitive bodybuilding journey. So in terms of expectations as it pertains to the stage, I am someone who is process driven, okay? I'm not driven by the outcome of where I come on stage. For me, the big win is always going to be in my ability to show up on a daily basis, to do what is asked by my coach, that I trust that is going to get me exactly where I want to be. And regardless of where I come on stage, I know that I've done everything on my side in line with what that coach sees as, the best port of call, and that's someone that I fully value, fully trust their opinion with, and I'm putting ultimately my best interests into them. Now, what makes me super proud about this prep is that I can wholeheartedly say at every single turn I have done that. So in some aspects, I have already won because I have done everything that I've been asked of. Now, that does not mean that I don't want to place or to win or anything like that. Of course I do. And in fact, the thing is, I would love a medal. I would love to get, a medal to say you've placed here. Oh, that's ultimately the goal from here on out. But if I didn't get that, that would not be, the determining factor in the success or the failure of this prep. Because all that tells me is that there's someone that is better than me, okay? There's someone that's maybe been in the game a little bit longer than me, or someone that's just genetically better, okay? Because I know I've done everything in my power to be my best. And I know for a fact, and I can wholeheartedly say now, that I am the very best that I can be right now. That doesn't mean I can't get better in the future. It just means this is what I can do now. And if or when there are individuals that are just better than that, why would I let that determine, has this been successful or not? That's especially important, I think, in terms of your first time competing, because you really don't know what to expect. And I certainly have no expectations in terms of this is where I should be or that's what I should get. That might come down the line, but ultimately the point I want to make is this prep, and so long as I get on stage and kind of do the job and have a bit of fun, that's going to be the success for me. Okay, so my only expectation is to be my best, follow all the orders, and go and have fun. And that's what we're going to do on Friday. That's the last part. Okay, so as you can see, we have arrived at the gym, upper pump session today. The goal of this session is not to get the maximal stimulus that we can within this session, okay? So it's not like your usual upper session whereby you're like, right, what can I get out of my chest? What can I get out of my delts? What can I get out of my back, arms, whatever? The goal is to get a really good pump, okay? What we're doing by getting a good pump is that we're going to be driving blood flow to the working muscles, the muscles that we're going to be training. And with that, we will aid in like the carbohydrate uptake within the muscle, so the glycogen uptake, okay? So all of the carbs that I've been putting in over the last few days, well, they need to go somewhere. And by training them muscle groups, we're going to be able to do that now. The thing is, with today's session, I'm not going to be training like super hard. You're not going to be coming out of this session super motivated to go get your upper session or your leg session or whatever, okay? Because training too hard will lead to like muscle soreness, inflammation. And with that, carbohydrate uptake, glycogen synthesis is not going to happen. So we need to keep some reps in the tank. We're going to train with reps in reserve. Generally, you'll see sets be slightly higher in reps. So for our big movements today, we'll probably be in the 8 to 12 rep range. For our smaller movements, more isolation-based movements, single joint movements, we'll be in the 10 to 15 rep range. I will be ensuring that I'm owning every inch of every rep, making sure to maximize the connection with the muscle groups, and just ensuring that the stimulus is going where I need the stimulus to go. So, very short, simple session. Again, not going to be grueling or taxing, but with enough intensity that it was worth coming in for. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off with a lateral raise variation. I'll catch you there. Okay, so the hardest part of prep, indefinitely, the last couple of weeks of pushing for conditioning. So prep was a 21-week block, whereby first 10, 11 weeks were pretty damn easy. We pulled off about 10, 11 kilos over that window of time. So it was literally like a kilo a week. When we got to about 9 weeks out, I was looking at my physique and I was like, right, probably still got like double the body weight to lose. So like another 9 kilos, 9, 10 kilos, whatever it was. And that's based on when I got nice and lean before and where I was with that physique and where that body weight was. And I knew that I wanted to get in better condition than that again. And I knew that I needed another 9 or 10 kilos to come off the frame. It was around then when Al was looking at me in person and we were like, right, yeah, we do need to push it on. So with that came obviously the push for conditioning. 9 weeks out, I was 79 kilos, and I knew I was probably going to push into like the 60s, potentially pushing into the 60s, right? So that meant it was going to have to be another kilo a week. We did push on at that point. And the next few weeks, I would see from like 9 to 5 weeks as being mostly like mentally or psychologically challenging in terms of, am I going to be in condition? That was pretty hard. But the push from 5 weeks out to literally a week out was demanding, to say the least, okay? So calories were quite low. We got as low as 1,850 calories. Cardio was quite high. Peaked at an hour every single day, training day, rest day, 7 days a week. I haven't had a day off of cardio up until peak week. Steps were at 14k per day. So that's steps, cardio, training, obviously, nutrition. And you have to remember, right, like that mightn't sound like much for like a day or a week or whatever, but we have been pushing that for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and fatigue accumulated, but there was no time to actually back off. You know, I had to keep my foot to the floor despite that fatigue being present, because at the end of the day, when you get on stage, you need to be in condition, okay? So it was, I won't say a race against time, it was a race against time for me, but certainly the push from 5 weeks out, the most challenging thing that I've done in my whole entire fitness journey, fitness career, from Gaelic football, bodybuilding, soccer, whatever it is. Super demanding, somewhat comparable to my masters, but I actually do believe that this challenged me even more so, and it did show me what I am actually capable of doing. It did show me where my work capacity is, and ultimately I've broken boundaries in my own head as to what I'm capable of doing and doing on a consistent basis. Challenge. Let's do our last set. I was just thinking there during that, right? All of that stuff is hard that I talked about there before. It's made a million times harder when your legs do not want to move. Okay, so I remember on Saturday mornings I have leg day, quad day, and then like an hour cardio after. That would be hard. The cardio after would be hard. Getting the 14k steps in would be hard too. But the day after that, ladies and gentlemen, my legs, I did not feel like they were attached to me. Getting up to do that cardio on them days, doing the steps on them days, even into Monday, it didn't feel right. It felt like it was so hard. But boy, am I glad I've done it. I am glad I've done it. And if you are going into a contest prep, if you're in one now, photo shoot, whatever it is, you are going to have to get through them days. You're going to have to get through the days where you have heavy legs. And I promise you right now, when you get to the end line, when you get to the finish line, you will be grateful. You will be grateful. I didn't know my girlfriend was coming over at this time. Let's talk about my girlfriend. Support system.
is so key for prep, right? I didn't plan to say this now, but here we are. The people that's around you are absolutely pivotal in your success or failure. You know, if they are supporting you, if they're driving you on, maybe if they're helping out, Els has been absolutely amazing as an example. It's going to make everything a million times easier. Whereas if you have people around you constantly putting you down, constantly looking for you to go do stuff that isn't aligned with prep, it's going to make things so much harder. Whether it's your mates that want to go out for drinks, and you know, that's something that you'd even consider if you're doing a prep, which shouldn't be, or if it's your girlfriend at home who just wants to go for a meal, or you know, you go for coffee and it's like, just get the cookie or get the muffin. That is going to make things a million times harder. So, you know, just recognize or evaluate the people around you. Make sure that they are supportive of your goals. And the thing is, they don't have to necessarily help you, you know, to be better. Like Els has made prep much easier. They just have to be understanding, okay? And they have to understand what your goals are, what your priorities are. And if they can't be understanding of your priorities and your goals, get rid. Okay, so the way I'm going to structure this session today is going to be very simple, very basic. Start off with a lateral raise variation there, so 3 sets. We'll move on to an incline press. So we're going to do 2 sets here, hitting the mid, upper pec, and also into the front delt. Then we'll move on to a pull down variation. I'm going to use a single arm Nautilus pull down. We'll do a flat chest press. We'll do a row, sort of lat focused, and that'll be like the big bits for today. 2 sets of everything. We'll be looking at like the 8 to 12 rep range. I'm generally going to be looking at like essentially the load that I use for a back offset, and then just, you know, milking every single part of that range, making every rep as hard as possible. Just making sure I get a good pump. So it's a little bit lighter, probably not with as many reps as I do for the back off. And yeah, as I've said before many times now, just getting a 6 pump. We'll finish off with arms then. I need more arms this off season, biceps specifically. Beautiful. The second big movement up today is going to be our single arm Nautilus pull down. When we're looking at this movement, what I'm generally looking for is ensuring that the shoulder, elbow and wrist are in one straight line, and we're driving them down and in as tight to the hip as we can. Okay? We want to initiate the movement, and the initiation is quite important here. A lot of people get this wrong and they just start yanking or pulling on the handles. I want you to think of the handles as just being an extension of your body, and this part of your arm also just being an extension of what's up here, okay? If we just pull on them handles, we're going to be using a lot of forearm, and we're going to be using a lot of bicep. We're looking to train the lats, guys. So our initiation is going to be shoulder down, and then we're driving the elbow down into the hip, into the base of the hip. On the way back up, you will see some people say that you want to, you know, keep it really tight, not let that shoulder come up. We're looking to train the iliac fibers, the lower portion of the lat here, guys, okay? And with that, in order to stretch it, we need to allow the shoulders to rise up just a little bit, okay? So a little bit of shoulder elevation at the top is absolutely fine. You don't want to go so high that you end up getting pulled out of position. That's where the problem is. So ensure you stay in position. You're going to come up, a little bit of shoulder elevation, and then we're initiating, pulling that shoulder down, driving the elbows to the hip. That's the best I've been able to explain an exercise in a few weeks. There must be some carbs in my system. Just as I was doing my warm-up set, one thing I did forget to add is the benefit of doing a single arm is that we can align essentially everything up with the hip. So if you're doing a double arm, you're essentially pulling like this and you're gonna pull like so. Whereas when you're going single arm, you can lean slightly into the working side in order to ensure that that elbow is going right down and into the hip, as opposed to if you're upright and we're pulling out here. So small little bit of a lean is cool. Don't overdo it because you can take away from the stretch on the way back up. Little lean, creme de la creme, lat exercises. This is the one. I've thought about it too long now. Thought about it too long. One more. One thing I think a lot of people need to hear when they're doing single arm, single leg work is that they need to respect both sides. So what I often see is people move from one side straight into the other side and then take like their 2-3 minutes rest at the end. What you have to think about is you've just went from one side, you're going to be tired after, your breathing rate is going to be up. You're also just not going to be maybe as locked in, as tuned in. You need to give a little bit of rest time before moving on to that second side. So instead of taking your 2 minutes rest after you've done right then left, take 1 minute rest in the middle. Now, admittedly, this is going to be more important for more demanding exercises. So when you look at something like a split squat, you'll definitely want to take your equal rest or take equal rest between sides and something like that. You'll get away with it more on the other hand, like something like a single arm bicep curl or tricep extension, okay? Probably not going to need much. Your breathing rate's not going to be elevated that much and you can just get after it. That's not going to be your limiting factor. On something like this, on the pull down, I'll take just a little bit of time. Just as much as I need to just crack on. Okay, it's probably not going to be a minute. It'll be 30 seconds. It'll be just enough for me to get my head where I need it to get after that set. Now we work. The work starts. Press through, drive. Come on, work. Compose. So losing strength across prep. As I come to this exercise, it's something that I have gotten weaker on. A lot of people come into dieting in general and they just think that straight away they are going to get weaker, when in reality that is not going to be the case. You know, you're not just going to enter into a deficit just because you're on less food. You know, you're not able to put out the same outputs in the gym or even get better. Across the first half of prep, I did continue to make progress. It was only the last 6 weeks or so whereby I did see a decrease in my strength in the gym. There's going to be a time at which you're going to have to make the decision to pull back load because the stimulus that you're now getting is not going to be worth the fatigue. So the stimulus to fatigue ratio is no longer aligned. It's a skill knowing when that's really the case. Whereas I think a lot of people, they just drop the loads too early just because things are getting hard. There's definitely a time and place to push, to drive on. And what I'd say is if 2-3 weeks in a row you're seeing consistent drops in the number of reps you're getting and they're consistently dropping below the rep range, you feel quite smashed after the set and you don't feel like you're quite getting the same stimulus, it's at this point you should probably consider dropping the load or even swapping exercise, because ultimately at that point where you are, you know, something like 6 weeks out, stimulus becomes more and more important. You need to consider more so the stimulus, what you're providing to the muscle to hold the muscle, as opposed to the mindset that you have to be in when you're in a growing phase. pumps, Jack?
Good this week.
Yeah.
On my car, man. You?
Yeah, they're good. They're not good yet, but give me a few. My chest is pumped.
Yeah, my arms are pumped. I
Yeah.
already got most of my chest.
No.
Bird chest.
Visuals getting better.
Yeah.
Are you not paying much attention? Just let Alan do his thing. I'm trying to do that.
Fasted shots a little bit. I don't like I've gone to the gym before.
Okay.
Went like the last few weeks on fasted shots.
Yeah. Okay, so up next, the Megamast 45-degree linear row. Very nice piece of equipment, very adjustable. Swivel handles that you can use to target different parts of the back. We've got the fixed handles here for upper back. You can adjust the seat height to preference. You can also turn this around so that you have a back pad here to essentially do like a barbell bent over row. When we're doing it with the chest support, when you see it from the side, kind of looks like a seal row, but like an upgraded version of a seal row. Probably the nicest piece of kit I've ever connected with for my back. So you can enjoy the video, and if you're in the local vicinity, you can enjoy the piece of kit or get a day pass and enjoy it then. That'll do. Delts, arms, we're done. Right, so they are the 8 to 12s done, so the bigger movements. Now we're just going to move on and maximize arm volume for the 10 minutes that I'll have a pump. New tricep machine in the gym, super nice. We've got the arm pad here, which allows me to drive my elbow hard into that. A common mistake made when you see people even just doing rope extensions is that on the way up, that they allow that elbow to travel forward, and it just takes away from, you know, challenging that tricep through stretching and shortening the tricep itself. Whereas here, you've got this kind of anchor, this support that you can press hard into and ensure that as you come up and as you go for more range of motion, as you keep your elbow there, you're actually stretching what you're trying to stretch, i.e. the tricep. So I'm gonna keep the reps nice and high here. Beautiful machine. Again, I'm not here to endorse the gym, although I will. Right guys, so that is the session wrapped up. That is posing complete. Nice light session, but I feel like I've done something. Got a nice pump, got some photos after, built some confidence looking at the shots from Oisin's camera. So that's all well and good. Gonna finish up on a few questions. So I put up a question box on Instagram last week. Got a couple of questions, not like loads, but we'll get through what I do have. So first up, what was the driving force behind this prep? So this prep was definitely different to last year's prep, okay? So the driving force behind last year's prep was simply that I've been in the gym for a long time, that I have, you know, I've spent a long time training. I've went through the photo shoots, and the next logical step for me was to get on stage. It was something that I hadn't done before. Bodybuilding, and specifically natural bodybuilding, is my passion. And I actually got to a point where I was like, why have I not competed before? So that was the driving force behind it last year. It was just the next step, okay? It was the next step in both my personal journey, but also I guess my coaching journey as a natural bodybuilding coach. This year was different because last year that got taken away from me. Okay, so last year I got to a point where I was not able to prep after the car crash, obviously. And the driving force behind it this year, during the challenges, during, you know, even from the start, has been, you get to do this now. So for me this year, it was about doing it because I can, because I'm healthy, because my body is actually allowing me to, and because I was able to keep that close to me regardless of the challenges that came up. They were nothing toward the challenges that I had last year after the crash. So that was the driving force behind it. Next question was just with regard to coaching. Did I find it harder to coach? And what I'll say is no, absolutely not. Like I presume this means in terms of like the energy available. Like when we look at anyone who preps for a show, they're going to be working in some avenue, and I'm actually lucky that I can, I guess, pick my own hours to a large degree. So no, it's like, you know, that would be an excuse. Anyone that's like, oh, coaching is so hard when you're prepping, I just don't get that. Like it's probably one of the easier jobs. You can set your own life up for how you want it to make it successful during that period of time. So no, definitely not. I will say, as I got closer to the stage, like the last 4 weeks, in-person coaching has been more difficult. Because my energy, you know, even to put plates on for my clients and stuff like that, that was hard. But I always wanted to do it. I always wanted to do the sessions. I always wanted to help the clients out, but it was definitely difficult as energy was low, you know, during some sessions for sure. Online coaching throughout the entire process, I'm sitting in a chair, guys. I'm sitting in a chair talking to people about something that is my bread and butter. And if anything, it was, you know, I would have taken on more if I could for the majority. Obviously, as I got closer, I closed my books. But like, because I could spend more time doing something and stop thinking about prep, that was actually seen as... I got asked about what are my biggest learning curves of prep. I guess the first thing is my work capacity, you know, where my true work capacity is. I would have always seen myself as someone who can push hard, who does push hard, who pushes themselves in all avenues. But I found another level to that this year. As I mentioned earlier, when calories got very low, steps got quite high, when cardio, did I say cardio? When cardio was super high as well. When that came with then hunger, but more so low energy availability and just feeling absolutely shagged all the time. my ability to work through that resilience. I've actually built a new level of resilience, I would say, a new level of, showing myself what I can do. So that is definitely the biggest learning curve, I would say. Other than that, did anything else? I guess, there was a point in prep about 8 weeks out where I was pretty shagged. I remember being absolutely starving one Thursday morning in here. In my first client session, I was starving. Second client session, I was starving. Had half an hour off, had a meal. I was even hungrier after that. And I thought that was it. That was it for the rest of prep. But I was like, I've got like 8 more weeks of this. How on earth am I going to get through this? But what I realized was that was like momentary. Okay, so anyone that's in prep now or starting prep or considering doing one, you will have days that are particularly hard, but it's not that they're just going to build on top of each other, which is what I thought was going to happen from that point. And instead, it's important to just be in the moment, understand right now I'm absolutely starving. But this too shall pass is something that I learned to say when them moments came, as I realized, okay, it's 1, 2, 3 days, and then it kind of just passes. Now, of course, you can be looking at like fatigue management strategies to help with that. We didn't have time, and it still passed. So, yeah, that's what I'd say in that regard. You kind of just got to let it happen. The fatigue associated with prep, low energy availability, it's a byproduct. It's what you sign up for. It's going to come with the territory. So, deal with it when it comes. It's what you signed up for. Is there anything else here today? There's a question on my expectations, which I kind of answered earlier. I'm sorry. But basically, again, just to reiterate, my expectations for me, for the stage, the first expectation is to get to the stage. Okay, so that obviously started 21 weeks ago. And the expectation was to follow orders to the T from the start. When you trust in your coach and you follow exactly the plan, no deviance, you can have full confidence in your ability to get to the stage. And then the second thing from here on out, something I'm trying to continuously say to myself, is to go and have fun. Because I've worked too hard for too long. So now I get to go and showcase the work that I've done. And I know I'm going to be at my best if I just have a bit of fun with it. Enjoy it. Try not to take it too serious. It's not the end of the world. The only person that's really going to care is me. Even like Ellie, even my mum, who's been great as well. When I was talking about social support, I forgot to mention you, Mumsy. Sorry, you have been amazing. But, they're ultimately not going to care about really if I come first or second or third or fourth or don't place or whatever. They're going to care that I've enjoyed it and that I'm happy with it, and the way I'm going to do that is by having a bit of fucking fun with it. So that's the aim. To round it off, there's my mummy texting me, but to round it off, if you need anything, let me know, she says. Third time, to round it off, I'm going to get Oisin to put up shots from the start of prep here now, and we'll compare to whatever shots we took upstairs, and we'll just see what the difference is, right? So that's going to be the video, guys. 2 days out. Tomorrow I'll be back with my own little shitty camera. We'll be back on the vlogs with 1 day out and a show day vlog together. Okay. Thank you, Oisin, for coming down. Fly on the wall stuff. I love it. That's us done, guys. We'll see you after the show.